Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Jets franchise. So if you missed it, in the last episode we came out on top, winning the Super Bowl by a score of 59-31 against the New York Giants, and now we are here with a new contract extension ready to get on to our next season. So I don't know how much more of this series I'm going to post, just because winning the Super Bowl was my main goal. However, I do plan on at least doing one more season here and trying to fit it in before MLB The Show comes out, and then just really depending on how everything goes with the release of MLB The Show depends on when this series ends and when hopefully I can start a series on that game. So really, as of right now, this series is just going by ear. So let's go ahead and get into the offseason. So first we got the re-sign period, but one thing is I do need to run the progression tool just to work around some of the regression that our players are going to get hit with. So I'll go ahead and be right back and go ahead and run that for you guys. Okay, so we are back. So basically all I did was run the regression tool, but we're going to go ahead and take a look around the team, see who really got hit with some big regression. And from what I've seen early on, John Hightower, who did go up to a 78 during the season, ended up going back down. That's not really surprising. He didn't get much action at all, apart from catching one pretty sick touchdown early on in the year. Anthony Schwartz is a burner that I brought in here. He's a little expensive. He might get cut along with Denzel Mims here, just because they're making quite a bit of money depending on how much we have and how free agency looks. But overall, not too much awful regression. I'm really happy that Jason Kelce looks like his overall is stabilized, which is nice because we have him under contract for one more year here. But one thing that is going to be interesting is CJ Mosley. So as you can see, he's beginning to regress down. He's been great for us. I'm not going to act like he isn't an amazing player, and he had an awesome Super Bowl, as you can see there. So it's going to be hard to let him go, but at the same time, his contract is really expensive. He's currently 31 at a super physical position, and we have to re-sign Blake Cashman, and I really want to bring him back, considering Cashman did get injured early on in the year, but other than that, he was completely healthy for us, and I think he could honestly take over for CJ Mosley. And we have Riley Cole, who also developed nicely in his 1 year here, who we have under contract for one more season. So I think the plan is going to be try to re-sign Blake Cashman, and if we can get him back, then we will cut CJ Mosley next week, save some money there. Honestly, that's not a bad contract. I'm definitely very much willing to pay him again because there's, we're not bringing back CJ Mosley, so we'll see if we can get him on this contract. Maybe we'll bump this up just a smidge to about $46 million, and we do bring Blake Cashman back, so that's awesome. Trevon Wesco probably not going to come back. Honestly, I don't really see myself bringing any of these guys back. So just before we take a look at the free agents, it's time we officially announce that CJ Mosley will be getting cut. I wouldn't mind bringing him back, but it would have to be for a lot cheaper. So currently looking at our negotiations right now, the two main guys I'm focused on are Richard Sherman and Roger Saffold. Both of these guys just on a one-year deal. For Saffold, you might call it a tiny bit of an overpay, but I'm not really worried about it. In just for 1 year, we don't really need the offensive line help, but it's a one-year contract, so it's not like it's going to hurt us too much if he sucks or if we just don't really use him. And then with CJ Mosley, I'm trying to do the same thing here. Bobby Okereke wasn't getting any offers, so I very heavily lowballed him, because if we can get a pass coverage linebacker on this cheap of a contract for 4 years with superstar dev, that would be insane. The main problem with Bobby Okereke is he's asking for the type of money you would pay an edge rusher, not a coverage linebacker, so it kind of makes it a little bit harder to offer him what he's actually worth. And then Sean Dion Hamilton is just going to be brought in here as some high quality depth. But so at first glance, we get Sherman and Saffold, pretty much both the guys we mostly wanted. That's good. Love to see it. And then as you can see here, now we are definitely being heavily outbid for Mosley and Okereke. Not really surprised there, but Regardless, we'll keep our money. So here we are just before the draft. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm currently using my own custom draft class here, so that's why I'm not really going to be pausing or going through players here. We're just, everything is completely fictional now. So let's go ahead and get started here at 32 with our pick. So here I would like to get a safety. I'm thinking this Jared Hernandez guy. I like this Michael Adams guy, but just the fact that we could maybe try to trade down to get him here. Like, maybe we could move down. I mean, I don't really know. I don't really see us like getting him if we trade down. So I'm thinking either Reginald Watson or Jared Hernandez or Michael Adams is the pick. We could just replace Ashton Davis here. Given that we signed Richard Sherman, cornerback isn't as big of a need. So instead, we replace Ashton Davis, avoid having to pay him, and it works out. Hernandez is going to come into the league already a better overall than what Davis is. So looking at the remainder here of the draft, I do like this Neil Williams kid out of Utah. Looks good. Does have an early second round grade on him though, so I'm anticipating that some team is going to try to scoop him up. We don't pick until the tail end of this round, so I would like to make a trade up here. So after looking around, I found a team that looks pretty willing to make a deal. The Colts don't have anyone at safety, nor at tight end, but we really don't have anybody to offer them at tight end unless they want Dalton Schultz. So Ashton Davis here to the Colts. This almost makes too much sense for us to move up quite a bit in the draft and for the Colts to get a player that arguably would be better than what they could potentially draft here. So they go ahead and take that, and now we've moved up in the draft. So Reginald Watson is 1 overall point higher than Hernandez. He was the other safety on the board, but we're not too worried about that. Here, now we can go ahead and take our guy Neil Williams. We'll see how he compares. So he's actually the same overall as DeMarcus King. Great zone coverage, decent press. You would prefer that play recognition, but it's not too bad. You would have loved him to have a hidden development, but overall, I'm really not upset by this pick at all. He's going to sit and learn a year behind Richard Sherman, so it works out. Now we're going to go to the end of the second round and try to find somebody else here, hopefully at linebacker. I like this Carlos Jones guy. I know he's graded as a mid-third rounder, but I would really like him. And honestly, I think we could move down considering he is slated to be an early 4th rounder and his talent is he's a mid-3rd rounder. Maybe we could get a pick in the 3rd round and maybe in the 3rd round next year from a team. So I'll see again if we can actually find a partner to trade down with this time around. So I like this trade that the Lions are offering us. We get 2 draft picks next year, which I really like just because I don't really care if we get a lot more mid-round picks in this year's draft. We kind of have that already. So I'm going to take this offer from the Lions. I felt that it was pretty realistic compared to some of the other ones I'm getting, even though we only moved down a couple of picks as the Bengals take another quarterback. Pretty weird considering they have Joe Burrow, so shout out to Madden. So honestly, just because I couldn't really find any trade downs that I loved, I think we're just going to take Carlos Jones here. He's our guy, so teams will do this all the time. They may I mean, we saw it happen with Daniel Jones, so to do it here, it's a bit of a reach, and sadly he does have normal development, but it was a position where we really needed somebody at, so not really worried about that too much there. So overall, I think we're in a good position to grab a DeMarcus Ford, kind of get that insurance, especially if he develops and we maybe don't plan on bringing Javonte Williams back, depending on how much he wants. So I like that pick. Like, I think it's completely fine to try to offer them this deal. If they don't take it, I might just take over as the Chargers. Okay, so they do take it, thank God. We get an extra 4th and a 5th next year. Another one of those because I think we already did a trade to get one earlier. So I could see myself grabbing this punter right now just to move on with it. So we'll take the punter. Awesome player. Our only hidden dev player to this point. So pretty happy with him. I'm pretty happy with that draft. I'm pretty happy with the trades we made. So looking ahead, Jared Hernandez, of course, Neil Williams. We did get Carlos Jones, so we got some nice linebacker depth we wanted to pick up considering we couldn't bring back CJ Mosley. DeMarcus Ford shores up our running back spot. Get a new kicker. So now, the final thing before we end this episode, I wanted to talk about where the team was. As you saw, some of the progression there, but as of right now, we are 4-0 at the top of the AFC East as we ride into another early bye week. Trey Lance off to a decent start. You would like to see a little bit more scoring, but Javonte Williams has come back in a big way. After a huge Super Bowl last season, he's reminded everyone how good he is. DeMarcus Ford has been really good as his backup. Even Troy Carter getting involved here, and we did bring in Tony Pollard at the end of the preseason, and it's nice to see him getting involved as well. Trey Lance not rushing us around as much as he usually does. That's just the Madden sim. Looking at our wide receivers, Calvin Ridley and Jamison Crowder producing nicely, as well as Kyle Pitts. Rondale Moore is off to a bit of a slower start than I would have liked. Javonte Williams has been really good in the passing game, and other than that, just a lot of quiet players, just because, again, the Madden sim doesn't like using all of those receivers. And then on the defensive side, again, no interceptions, which is a bit of a bummer, but Quinnen Williams and Bud Dupree getting some sacks there. Kay Thibodeau, a slower start to the year, but hopefully with him earning some development points, he'll be able to get back on it and hopefully win Defensive Player of the Year this year, as he did win Rookie of the Year last year. But overall, a pretty nice start. Again, just hoping that this defense can kind of figure it out here. Looking at our upgrades, of course, Trey Lance getting plus 10. He did go up to Superstar X Factor. He does have high-low Deadeye, so hopefully by the end of this upgrade, he should be at that 90 overall and get that ability slot. John Hightower continues to develop. Chuma Edoga developing here. He might actually take over in Roger Saffold's spot because he's been developing really nicely over these last 2 years. I kind of neglected him last year, but maybe he has something to say here. I think he's on the final year of his contract, so it'll be nice just to see what value we can maybe get out of him. Javonte Williams gets some upgrade points. You love to see it because he didn't really develop last year, so it's awesome to see. Darius Stills, who was a defensive tackle guy who I ended up taking here, he's developing nicely, and that's really cool because we're going to have to deal with the concept of potentially paying Quinnen Williams. So if Stills develops nicely with those points, we might be talking about moving on from Quinnen Williams and saving that money there. Calvin Ridley developing. Now he looks to become more of an underpaid player. Mekhi Becton, Kay Thibodeau, just some really nice development overall, and I'm really excited to see where this team can go this season. I don't know exactly how I plan on playing this season yet, and I apologize that it took me a little bit longer to get this episode out, but it was just hard to get going, especially just because of trying to plan things out with how this series is going to end, especially with MLB The Show coming out. So regardless, I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.